We are recording.
All right. How was the last episode?
It went well. We did. It was pretty interesting. We spent some time on social and makeup and sock and boppers. So
That's the perfect way to describe it.
So if you haven't listened to that one,
yeah.
go listen to it.
All of those things were discussed
I like it.
in length.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Hey Josh, how you doing?
Welcome to the podcast, man. We got Tom here,
Welcome,
CEO of several companies. Tom, I'll let you talk about your...
Self.
Yes.
Tom Cruz, CRUZ.
Not to be
Not
confused.
Wait, this isn't the real Tom Cruise?
No, it's not. I own
We're definitely putting the other Tom Cruise on the name, though, just so people click on it.
Podcast with Tom Cruz.
I have nothing against clickbait. I own a software and a marketing company. Main focus right now is software and marketing. I also have a paintball company that recently opened, but day-to-day is paid ads through AdWords and Facebook and LinkedIn. Do that for the most part myself. My team is all remote, but they focus on the hosting side and the web design side and other organic side of the marketing that we do.
Solid. That's awesome. Really fun, because that's perfect, right in line with today's conversation, because we'll be talking a lot about productivity.
Yeah.
And Tom, you are all over the map, man.
Yeah,
So
I stay busy.
we're trying to figure out how to extract as many tips as possible from you.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just a tipster.
I'm Josh, chairman here at Huify. When not riding my electric skateboard. Who else is here?
Melissa's here. I am on the client success team, project management, content. I'm out of coffee. I just realized that.
I don't
It's
even
really
have
sad.
coffee.
I've
I'm
got
very
nothing,
sad.
not even a drop, and a half-eaten eclair that's sitting on the podcast table. So that's
Those
where
eclairs
I'm at
are
right
amazing, though. They're so good.
now.
I'm
You
Kyle.
just, go ahead.
Oh.
I was going to say describe the eclair.
Don't
so
describe
everyone
yourself.
understands.
Just tell us what the eclair.
Yeah, I got everyone hooked on those. They're good and also terrible for you. But my name is Kyle Kramer. I'm the CEO of Huify. Everyone says Josh and I sound alike. I don't really hear it, but then we get on sales calls and they're like, "Who's talking right now?"
I think one of you should get a British accent. I'll let you fight it out between yourselves.
Cool.
Cool. All right. So let's just jump
All
right into
right.
it.
So, Tom, you want to kick off the conversation? No, I'm just kidding.
You have no context.
So,
This is my
yeah.
first, I think it's going to be a successful podcast because the last one got cut off by your speeding ticket.
Yeah. Hey, that's not supposed to... No, I mean, totally. So, Tom and I thought it was the brilliant idea
It was mostly Josh.
to record a podcast episode while driving, which if you all are ever thinking about that and trying to think about how you might be able to double dip and multitask and all that kind of thing and do two things at the same time, I just suggest don't do them while driving, because we got in the conversation, we were jamming, I was excited, and then all of a sudden,
You were like, "Floor it!"
yeah, I mean, the speedometer was just going up and up and up and up as the conversation was getting better and better, and then there were lights behind me. So anyway, that was a nice, valuable $400 podcast lesson that about what not to do when you're trying to stay productive. So for our conversation today, let's jump right into how do you keep things productive, juggling home life, work life. Tom, you've got 4, 5, 10 companies, depending on what day.
Yeah, it's about 4 companies.
Okay, 4 companies. But still, you've got 4 companies that you're running. A ton of the team members here have multiple things that you guys are working on. Huify obviously takes up a lion's share. So what are your guys' thoughts? Kyle, how do you do it? How do you stay balanced?
Yeah, and I guess that was kind of the word that I was going to go to. Is the key for me is definitely the balance. I definitely, during the week we work pretty long hours most weeks and kind of grind it out, and definitely enjoying that. But also, what's really important for me is kind of getting away on the weekends and being able to kind of let loose and run around and go and drive around and see my friends and just take the time to, and also kind of be by myself, which I find is really important for me to kind of be able to just lock back in when I come back in on Monday mornings and really kind of focus on and get back into work. So for me, it's a healthy balance of, there's definitely at the end of some weeks where it's like, man, this has been a really long, tired week. But anytime there's like an elongated vacation, or anytime there's, we go away for more than a weekend and it's like 2, 4, 5 days out of the office, it's like, man, I'm kind of ready to get back to work. I'm ready to grind away things. So it definitely is a balance, and just knowing, kind of knowing your limits, and knowing when you're at the brink of being overworked or at capacity, and having the ability to kind of step away and gain some perspective.
Sure. So I get that. How about in the day-to-day, one of the hardest things I have is that is it like tab, I don't know what it is. It's not
overload.
Yeah, 'cause it's not fear of tabs. It's definitely the opposite. I love that I have too many tabs. I guess it's like constant FOMO of like, if I close one of these tabs, I'm going to lose that whole thing. So how do you guys, maybe that's a good place to start. How do you just keep track of, Melissa, you head up a lot of project management here at UFI. If I was in your role, I would have all the tabs open that you could possibly have open. So how do you balance and kind of keep track, whether it's with tabs or anything else?
For me, it's all about prioritization and just optimizing my time management skills.
So how did you do that though?
Okay,
Because
so,
that for
okay,
me,
I'm gonna explain.
I think that sounds
I'm
awesome,
gonna
and I would
explain,
love
Josh.
to do that.
So I kind of talked about it a little bit on the last podcast. So I won't go too much into it, but my methods with Google Calendar.
Oh, cool.
And just understanding that my time is really valuable, and if I don't focus on one thing and it gets pushed, it goes somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. So I really try to see things day by day. What are the top things I need to do today? And anything else that might feel important, it might only feel important, and it needs to just move. So just really having a good handle on what the priorities are, what needs to get finished, and then balancing that, kind of go back to what Kyle said, with what my personal limits are and what I need to be successful. So not overexerting myself, but still trying to keep that constant momentum, having that mindset of not being afraid to make mistakes, but still being careful. Like, there's definitely a balance to it, but I would say if you're looking to manage your time more effectively, definitely utilize some kind of tool like Google Calendar. Make a list of everything you have to do that day. Try to guess how long it's going to take you, and think forward and try to almost like predict your own failure. Like, what is most likely thing to happen to me today? Okay, most likely thing is I'm not going to finish all of these things that I want to do. What are the most important things then that I absolutely have to do, knowing that will probably happen? So really just like looking into the future and trying to predict my own kind of shortcomings that's really helped me out.
What methods do you take right now?
Oh, I don't even know. It's like, are they
methods, or is it just madness and just tabs everywhere?
Tabs.
No, thankfully it's, so the first step is definitely like minimizing clutter. And you can look at my desk and say, really? That's your first method? Because right now there's like a half of the desk that is very cluttered. But
and then there's the other half, which is my desk, which very clearly it's like, Josh, this is the line.
Exactly. And it's just like, and I sometimes even have to take my stuff and just like move it over the line, the pile. It's starting with just saying, okay, what is the thing I'm doing right now? And are any of these tabs that are open unrelated to that thing? If so, then using a tool like Toby as a tab management. It's for those who know, like one tab. It's just a Chrome extension, and you can save the tabs for later. And that's kind of helped me, because what I'll do is I'll bucket the tabs by task. So then when I complete that task, I immediately delete all those tabs in that bucket. And so that's kind of helped me knock out one task one after another. But and then honestly toggle for our time tracking, forcing myself that every time I switch between one task to the next, I have to start tracking it in my time, which sometimes even that is kind of a good barrier of entry to switching tasks, because you're like, okay, is this next task really worth switching my time over, or is it just going to be a 2-second thing? And if it's a 2-second thing, does it really have to happen now, or can it happen after I'm done with this? So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Tom? What do you think, man?
Yeah, those are all good tips. My big thing is I'll wake up, I'll write out a giant list of stuff to do through that day, and then I just look at the list and figure out, if the outcome is not income, then I just delegate it to somebody. So I don't have to do it. And then I just find the stuff that, produces the most money for that day, and then I'll start working on that. And then if I realize that is the amount of income is not worth the time to do it, and then I'll spend money to get that task done. So I'll either outsource it, or I'll give it to someone else on my team, or try to figure out a better way of getting it done.
Can you explain some of those tasks, like income versus delegating?
Sure. Like, for example, let me think of the most recent one. I didn't do one this morning,
I know
so
it's like putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. Organizing new ad groups for, doing a pay-per-click audit for a client. That is a very time-consuming and 2 or 3 hour long process, and you don't know if that's going to produce income. So I'll have, one of my guys that does pay-per-click management for me. I'll have him go through the account, give me all the stuff that's wrong with that account, and then I'll I'll write the actual email based on his thoughts on that, and then I'll send it to the client to try to get them to sign up with us. So instead of me spending those 3 hours going through the entire account, I'll have someone else do it, and then I'll put together that list and then send it out to them. Or let's see what else. Proposal's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just things like that. If it's part of that list that I don't want to do, or I'll delegate it to my partner. So for Crossfire Paintball, my new paintball company, we were trying to figure out. I'm responsible for all the marketing of it. If I don't do my job right, we don't get people in the door that weekend, and then we don't make money, which is not good. So we were trying to figure out new masks that we need to buy for everybody. And I was sitting there looking at a vendor list, and I was like, this is clearly not worth spending an hour on it. So let me give it to Kirk to do. And then he manages the operations part of it. So he dealt with that, and I got back to, configuring lookalike audiences for our Facebook campaign to try to get more people through the door that week. So I just try to look at every task like that as, is it worth the time? And if it's not, then spend money on it.
That's awesome, man. So one trap that I feel like we kind of fall into a lot is, and I'm curious because you own a software company.
Right.
And so, you own really 2 software companies.
Right.
So that's correct. So how do you keep that? Okay. The trap we fall into is that we're always like, hey, what if we built a software that did blank so we didn't have to do this manual task every time? Now, sometimes...
And then me and Josh go off for an hour talking about how amazing this thing would be.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all this time spent. But then, now, that really could be a great thing to do. But also, that was an hour spent that if we don't actually do it, not only did we not do the task, but we also spent an hour not doing the task talking about another way to do the task.
Right.
If we invested money in building a software. So how do you keep that balance of where you're delegating, and then sometimes you even decide, you know what, maybe I will make in your example, an audit software that helps speed up the audit process or something
Because
like that.
at the end of the day, I know what's working to generate income for me, and I'm not trying to go on a tangent. I mean, I could think of, hey, look, Gmail's not doing this right. Am I going to go recreate Gmail? If this project management software sucks. It's too complicated.
You found a product management software that sucks?
What?
That's
No.
crazy.
It's like, let me
No
go,
way.
That never happens.
let me go create another one. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I have these thoughts about how it could be done better. But at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, this software is making a lot of money, or this marketing campaign is doing really well for this client. They want to, raise their spend to $50,000 a month. Let me focus on that and not on this. So I don't know. It's just more of a mental thing. I think as far as how I juggle the companies, it's taken me, 8 years to figure it out. Slowly just by adding more companies. I started, first the marketing company, first the paintball company, then the marketing company, then the software company, and then another software company, and now a paintball field. I just started segmenting out my day based on whatever has to be the most important thing done. Like today we have to order 100 cases of paintballs for this weekend to overnight tomorrow morning.
Get it.
So need to buy that today. So that was the first thing I, woke up and I emailed Kirk and I was like, hey, call the vendor, spend 30 minutes on hold with them and do that. And then the next thing is, hey, we need to look at NoteVault's Capterra account. They want to bump their budget to $5,000 for Capterra. So of course I went in there, looked at that, figured out exactly what keywords, what was generating, looked at their HubSpot account. I was like, all right, that's done. Budget's been increased. She's gonna be happy. Then I try to kind of bucket all my tasks, so like by clients. So for her, it was AdWords, NoteVault, and Facebook. She wanted me to look at Facebook yesterday, so I went through and looked at that, knowing very well that any activity corresponding to Heather is going to generate more income,
Sure.
because she wants to spend more money, she wants to be more aggressive. So that's where I spent my time.
Do you have like clear cutoffs in your day where you're like, okay, I'm doing kind of like Melissa was talking about with calendars, where you're like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm working on this company, and then I'm not even going to look at emails that come in for that company. I'm only going to work on this company, or how do you do that?
I've tried that in the past, but I'm not that regimented or segmented or disciplined, and I know that. So I could put down whatever I want in that calendar. From 1 to 2 o'clock, I'm looking at emails. And then I'll sit there and look at emails, and then something else will happen that's going to be like an opportunity. And I'm like, emails can wait till later.
Yeah.
So me staying in a task for a certain amount of time is not realistic for me. I know you guys have really pretty like Tetris calendars, and they're all like segmented by the 15-minute block. And I've tried that, but I guess it's another big part of how I manage stuff is I just know what I'm good at and what I'm bad at, and I'm really, really bad at trying to stay doing one thing for a certain amount of time just because I preset that time.
Sure. Makes sense. What about you guys?
So let me just go back on that Tetris calendar thing. I do block out my time pretty religiously, but it's really important to know when to pivot and when not to pivot. If you block out a half an hour to send an email, for example, and it takes you 10 minutes to put something together, you don't need to sit there and be like, okay, I've got 20 minutes of free time now. No, like you move on to the next thing. But sometimes I find myself struggling with this. I will block out an hour to do something that is really important, and because I can't get in the mindset, I'm like, I should move on, and I have to just be like, no, this is the time that you have. If you don't do it now, it's going to get pushed again. You have to just like be really like disciplined about it. But I do totally agree with Tom. Sometimes, you're just like, this isn't an opportunity for me. This is going to waste my time. I'm going to move on to something else. That definitely happens. So I think just kind of balancing that is really, really important.
So you're saying, just so I understand even more, like you're saying if you allotted a certain amount of time to something and it's taking more time than you had originally allotted, you want to just, instead of moving on to the next thing because you blocked off something else or because you have another task, you're saying you would push through and complete it to the best of your abilities, or how do you handle those situations?
It depends on the situation. If it's something urgent that I blocked out the time because it had to be done that day, I'm going to sit there until it's done. I'm going to be like, I got to do this.
Totally.
But if it's something that I can kind of push, I will. But I'll also do that with the mindset of, this is just going to go into another time slot. Are you going to do the same thing?
Totally.
Next time you have to do this, push it off into oblivion.
And I guess that goes back to your priority that you were talking earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you brought up an interesting point too about the kind of the mindset of certain tasks, especially if things have to be or require a little bit more creativity. If it's banging out an email or doing some an audit or something that comes down to core skills, I mean, you can pretty much task that out at any time. But a lot of the thoughts and the thinking and the way that I've kind of been forced or kind of pushed to think even for Huify lately has been more on the creative and figuring out the future and the revenue side there. And so for me, and the best time to do that is honestly, the mindset to be able to get into that state is a big part of it. And so I can block out, what I've found is I could block out an hour on my calendar and then I sit down to do that task, and I'm not in that mind state. And so something that on the flip side, if I would have taken me an hour is now going to take me 3 hours, and also it's going to be total shit. And so there's an element there where it's like, I feel like some of those tasks have to be kind of when you're in that mindset.
Sure, that makes sense. So how do all of you learn and like adapt more things. One of the habits I fall into is I get into this like productivity loop where I'm trying to research how to be more productive, and then I'll be like the bullet calendar or this calendar or this type of journal or this type of note taking or this tool, and then lo and behold I spend 6 hours researching, quote unquote, how to be more productive, and the irony in that is just too stupid. So I mean, how do you stay where you're like learning and getting better at the same time you're not crossing that line, whatever that line is, where you're just straight up wasting time looking at stuff?
For me, it kind of goes back to what Tom said with knowing where you're really good and where you're really not. And for me, like, I know where I'm most productive, and when I'm most productive is when I take a half a piece of paper and write down all the tasks that I have to do, and then physically cross them off. And if it goes on that piece of paper, without a doubt, it will get done. And almost 10 to 1, if it doesn't, it probably won't. And so that kind of like, I know that there's an urge or an effort even from myself to be like, okay, how do I automate this, or how do I make this thing better? But for me too, there's a reality there. It's like, it doesn't have to be any more complex than that, and it's just a task list and it's knocking things out. So that's how that's what I always fall back on. And even to this day, I mean, you guys know I walk around with that stupid little piece of paper, but everything's getting done. So
Yeah.
How about you? How do you get to the money?
I get to the money the exact same way Kyle gets to the money. I think you reading productivity blog posts and learning about, I think all these tools are all the same. They're just laid out differently. It's all different ways of doing the same thing. But if you go back to a legal pad and a pen and just the stuff that's going to make you money, and you cross them off, psychologically it's a whole lot more satisfying than like deleting something off a notepad file.
Right.
And also it forces you to put the most important stuff there. It's, I don't know what to tell you as far as 6 hours of productivity reading. It's like those entrepreneurs on Facebook that put like I work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week. Like, all right, cool, but you also spend like 20 hours a week putting up motivational memes on Facebook. But you're not getting to the money.
Changing your background
Yeah.
to like some motivational quote every
exactly.
day.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, I have like at least 5 or 10 friends on Facebook, and they'll post like at least twice or 3 times a week, them like on their MacBook Pro in a coffee shop, and they're like, getting to it. I'm like, how long did it take you to stage that picture? Like, why are you like, no one needs
Solid
to know.
30 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one
You
needs
gotta-
to know that you're,
It's for the
doing it.
gram,
Do it.
dude.
You
It's
just
for the gram
Making
now.
it till you make it.
Could
Yeah.
not agree more.
So, I mean, I think as far
Hashtag
as,
startup, hashtag hustle hard.
Hashtag
Yeah.
coffee shops.
because I mean, I'll sit there as well, but it won't be for productivity. It'll be for like, for me, my biggest struggle is, managing a remote team and communication. So being able to get people to do what I want them to do in the time, the way I want it done correctly, especially with software. When you start adding, the creative piece to it, that's what I'm really trying to fine tune.
Yeah.
I got frustrated to the point where I'm about to hire an in-house graphic artist to, be in the office, so I don't have to manage that remotely with somebody
Sure.
else. So I feel some things are a whole lot easier, like our developer and programming team. One's in Illinois or one's in Florida, and I could just be like, hey, this needs to do this. All right, cool. It's, done. But when you're trying to like explain a graphic or creative or a tone or branding, I think it's a whole lot more tough to convey that.
We've dealt with that here too, even with what we do on the website side. It's like anytime a creative item comes into the question, it's like, okay, like, it's very quickly becomes that this is what we said we wanted, and you interpreted it as this and created something that's completely different.
Or they'll do it identically word for word the exact way you wanted it,
Yeah.
or you said it, but it
You're like,
doesn't
"Man,
convey it. So,
I hired you to be creative. They're
Yeah.
like, whoa, pick one. You're like, no.
Yeah.
yeah, especially when you're
I
dealing
need
with
both.
overseas, and they're like,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Isn't it the
Everything
language
is-
barrier?
take it so literally.
yeah, you need
Sure.
to.
Yeah.
You said to put the logo in the middle. I was like, yeah, but not center mass, with nothing around it, man. Like,
Come on, now.
Use your graphic design knowledge to make
Come
it
on,
look
man.
good.
Yeah.
But, telling someone to make it pop doesn't tell them anything either. So
Literally make it
it's
pop.
very difficult. That's why with creative, I want to be like, next to them on the computer and be like, this needs to not look like this.
Yeah. Hand motions.
Hand motions.
I feel like hand motions come in pretty
motions
crucial.
I try to go as generic and as vague as possible, and then just have them redesign the whole thing.
I like it. I think it's a good call. Awesome. Well, it's fun, guys. Thanks so much for joining us and listening into coffee.
No.
I was like, I knew I was going to mess it up.
Closers are for coffee.
Closers are for coffee. Definitely subscribe. We have right now, these are being posted on YouTube, Facebook, and on our blog. So whatever your preference is, by all means. Or if you want to subscribe to all three so you don't miss an episode, do that. And share it with another person that you think would benefit. Also, love to know what your thoughts are on maximizing productivity. Comment wherever you listen to this. We definitely are always looking to avoid the 6 hours of reading blog posts.
Yeah, send them to us,
God bless.
please.
Tom, where can people follow you and find you?
They could follow me.
We're already going to post your home address, so don't worry about that. But
Okay.
where else can they
I
find
use
you?
social security number.
Trying to get my credits. Emails tom@aptohq.com. Follow me at facebook.com/tcruise04. And then Instagram is tcruise04 as well.
Solid. Thanks for joining us, man.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Tom.
Thanks for having me.
All right.